If there is one thing that this Trump administration really loves, it is breaking the law. Corruption and criminality are the defining elements of Donald Trump's administration. We see it from him, we see it from Elon, we see it from the rest of his cabinet of kooks and crazies who are unqualified for their job. The only thing they're really good at is having these huge, showy, angry responses of how upset they are when they get called out or held accountable for their corruption and criminality. And that is exactly what we saw after Donald Trump was caught breaking the law and was called out for it by Jasmine Crockett. And we are going to get into all of that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video. And if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we can get into Jasmine Crockett's takedown of Donald Trump, I want to start with one of the craziest examples I have seen of Karoline Leavitt trying to defend the illegal actions of Donald Trump.
Real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court.
I talked about this earlier today. It is still baffling to me, even with how poorly I view Karoline Leavitt, that she wants to decide that returning a man who was illegally and immorally and disgustingly shipped to a foreign torture prison, returning him home when he should have never been deported, as some sort of imposition, and that we don't need to treat him with the human dignity and respect he deserves, and maybe a little bit further than respect, considering that you almost destroyed this man's life, that the trauma that he'll carry around with him because of your actions it is absurd. That she said, well, we don't have to be that nice in returning him. She's pouting. It is insane, which is why it was so important that Jasmine Crockett went off on all the illegalities of the Trump administration in this takedown right here.
Congressman Jasmine Crockett is a Democrat of Texas. She serves on both the Oversight and Judiciary Committee. She served as a public defender before she went to Congress, and she joins me now. First, Congressman, it feels like we have been in this kind of some version of a constitutional crisis or showdown between the courts and this administration almost since day one. Are you heartened, at least, by the unanimity of the decision of the court saying at least siding with the district judge provisionally here?
I mean, to a certain extent, I feel like I'm in an abusive relationship. I think all Americans may feel like we're in an abusive relationship with this administration as well as with the Supreme Court that struggles to really earn the trust of American citizens, right? And at a time in which we really are wondering whether or not there is going to be this ultimate clash between an order from the Supreme Court and this administration, again, we're kind of in this space where they're basically saying in a unanimous way, which again, as you pointed out, doesn't happen very often, they are saying, you know what, we all agree. And it is very difficult to get them to all agree on anything. So we will see what this administration does. But as far as I'm concerned, if you can figure out how to get them down there, you can figure out how to get them back.
One thing that has been clear in the early polling that we have, and again, polling is inexact, but to the extent that we have a sense across different polling outlets, is that the approval rating is relatively low for the sitting president. It's now sitting in the low 40s. He's underwater, as we say. The one issue that he is doing relatively well at is on immigration. And there's a kind of line of argumentation that comes from certain quarters, which is Democrats should just keep quiet about that. And you can't convince people on this stuff, and they kind of want to see these deportations. I wonder how you feel about that in terms of making an affirmative case here about why this practice that they have put into effect is indeed wrong, and whether that's a case that you can effectively make.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can always make an effective case, Chris, but I will tell you that what this tells us, though, is that their propaganda is working, right? And that is what's so dangerous. This administration has someone that is heading up DHS that is going out there cosplaying with guns that it's clear she don't even know how to operate the guns. And, you know, she's taking these photos, you know, with people, and they're telling them, yeah, they're Venezuelan gang members, right? And so they are telling people, listen, we're getting rid of the bad people, right? And we don't have enough stories because obviously they decided they were going to get rid of due process to know whether or not you really are going and getting the bad guys. There's somebody straight out of Dallas, Texas, who literally was snatched up and sent off to this same place because he had an autism tattoo, you know, and so they don't know the real stories. They only know what they're presented with. And we know that for whatever reason, when Trump and his cronies present lies, the American people fall in love. But the reality of this administration is a whole other story.
There's also a question here about whether Congress tries to reassert any role in this. I mean, this has been, there's the Alien Enemies Act, which has been declared. Congress has basically taken this sort of posture on everything from immigration policy to the core functions of taxation, which you know, are given the power over in the Constitution quite clearly, to basically let the president do whatever he wants. And I wonder if you think, can you envision a set of circumstances in which that starts to change, or have you sort of accepted that as the baseline for Republicans going forward and they're not going to change that?
I can't find a spine anywhere in the house. So, no, I don't really see it changing. I mean, and this is knowing that this is going to harm so many people in their own districts. When we start to talk about these tariffs are not limited to any one type of people. It's not limited to Democrats, Republicans, or independents. It's not limited to urban or rural. We know for a fact, if we look back just at his last administration, what it did to the soybean farmers, right? And we ultimately ended up having to give them money to supplant the fact that they lost so much money. But this crazy tariff war that nobody asked for, where he basically is invoking emergency powers, the same thing that he did under the Alien Enemies Act, like the fact that no one is questioning his mental acuity or fitness to serve is beyond wild to me, right? Like the fact that they sat around, called Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, and as I said before, at least you could sleep at night because you didn't have to worry about your 401k disappearing overnight. You didn't have to worry about these allegations of fake invasions. You didn't have to worry about the cost of food just skyrocketing or skyrocketing cost of all of your electronics. You know, the fact that Apple was flying in planes of iPhones before the tariffs hit, like this is crazy work for no reason. So, you know, I just hope that people remember, because seemingly they got amnesia the first time. And so you've got opportunities to vote. And I will tell you that every single special election we've had, Democrats are swinging no less than 15 points. But honestly, we should be swinging 30 and 40 points because of the level of incompetence and harm that this administration is bringing upon all of us.
Yeah, Congresswoman referring to a kind of improvised Apple iPhone Dunkirk situation where they like got a bunch of planes bringing phones in, I believe from India, before the tariffs would hit. That was quite a story to read. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you very much.
I always say this whenever I watch a Jasmine Crockett clip or I play it on this show. I'm just like, thank you. We need more fighters like Jasmine Crockett. She is unapologetic, and she realizes that what Donald Trump is trying to do is take an issue that he thinks he has popularity on, that people might support him, you know, want a secure border, do not want criminals in the country. Sure, these are policies that Democrats have talked about. Remember that bipartisan border deal that he shut down that wanted to secure the border that Donald Trump has not brought up since the election? Yeah, I don't really think they care that much. But what Jasmine Crockett recognizes is that Donald Trump wants to pick issues that Democrats might be a little queasy on, might not be that comfortable. Maybe I don't want to talk about it. That's where he wants to solidify his power. That's where he wants to do his overreach. That's where he wants to take it just another step further in breaking the law, because he doesn't think Democrats will hold him accountable. They don't. He thinks that if I am deporting people who are lawful permanent residents but claim they're criminals, Democrats will be too scared to step up and say anything. And there's a lot of Democrats who are too afraid that it'll be a negative perception for the party, that we're not going to win on this issue. But these are human beings, and we need to stand up for their dignity and for their rights. And that is exactly what Jasmine Crockett did. And that is why I always applaud her, because she is not afraid. And we need more of that. More people unafraid to call out Donald Trump's attacks on our rule of law, which is more of what Jasmine Crockett did. She's just the best right here.
Today is nothing more than a dog and pony show for Republicans to avoid facing the American people for their trash policies that are killing the economy and our democracy. Despite Republicans' claim of backing the blue and being the party of law and order, we're here today because Republicans are willing to throw our country's top law enforcement agents under the bus to appease Trump and execute his political vengeance. Now, I know remembering things is hard for some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, like remembering not to add reporters into a signal chat discussing military war plans. But let me remind my colleagues that it was Trump who decided to store national secrets and classified documents next to his oversized bathtub and toilet at Mar-a-Lago. It was Trump who took the documents out of the boxes and shared them with his guests. It was Trump who told his staff to move the boxes when the FBI was coming. And it was Trump who appointed Director Christopher Wray as head of the FBI, the same director that allowed the investigation to move forward. As much as Trump and Republicans hate to accept it, we are still a country with laws. And when you break them, there are consequences. Now, make no mistake, we should all be concerned about the FBI. But my concerns as ranking member of this subcommittee, as a member of Congress, and as an attorney, as well as a citizen, are based on things called facts. And when I say facts, I mean clear, indisputable facts, not those alternative facts my Republican colleagues continue pushing onto the American people. So let's talk about facts. Fact. Even prior to being confirmed by the Senate, Kash Patel was directing officials within the FBI to fire members within the Bureau simply because they worked on the lawful investigations into Trump. Fact, Patel failed to disclose his previous work and financial ties with the country of Qatar, a country that, had you had read the Mazars report, released last year by the House Oversight Committee, you would know paid close to $500,000 to Trump while he was president of the United States. Unsurprisingly, the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force was recently disbanded, and the DOJ also cut back on its Foreign Agents Registration Act enforcement. Our enemies are jumping up and down now that we're doing their work for them. Another fact, Patel has never even been an FBI agent and is now leading the Bureau. Even one of today's Republican witnesses organizations, the Bureau, has advocated having an FBI agent lead the Bureau. But rather than confirm a director with credible, dedicated experience, the Republicans confirmed a political loyalist with no Quantico or FBI training. Talk about DEI. Didn't earn it higher. Another fact, Patel, who rails against telework, what he calls lazy agents, was working part-time in and out of Las Vegas, commuting back and forth between there and DC, while also living in the home of a GOP mega donor.
Democrats must be unafraid. This is a constitutional crisis we are living in, and we gotta act like it. I know Jasmine Crockett is. I know that we are going to, on this show every single day, we are going to fight. We are going to use our voices. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.